The chords echo from concert halls and front porches, through Appalachian hollows and big city bars. Romantic, lonely, laughing, and lively. The handmade American acoustic guitar is one of the most highly prized musical instruments in the world. And it's more than just wood and wire. It's craftsmanship and attitude.
The guitar represents freedom. It represents independence. It represents rebellion sometimes.
American guitar builders trace their roots back to Europe of the early 1800s, where the craft of lutherie, that's guitar building, was emerging as the modern guitar evolved. There's no exact count of how many luthiers there are in America, but they number in the thousands, each in pursuit of their own perfect guitar.
The idea that I and my partners can take a raw stack of wood and make something that is so aesthetically pleasing to the eye and the ear, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
It's preserving a bit of craftsmanship that is really a vanishing art in this country.
20 years ago or 15 years ago, it seems like when they asked me what I did, I'd say, well, I make guitars. They say, oh, well, what do you do for a living? And I'd say, well, I make guitars.
I couldn't imagine a more right livelihood. You know, it seemed to fit really nicely into my philosophies and what I'd like to do.
I even enjoy sanding, and nobody would ever admit that. I don't mind sanding at all. I'm gone. That's probably why. I don't think about what I'm doing half the time. I just daydream. I'm a daydreamer, so it's easy for me to get through 10 hours and not know what I did, except see the finished product.
To make an entire guitar, it's quite an ordeal. Today, there's over 300 operations involved, and it takes a minimum of 3 months.
Every luthier, whether they admit it or not, is an absolute perfectionist, taking as much care with the unseen details as with the final polish.
The materials, the glues, the machinery that assists you in building the guitars have gotten better, so that we really are turning out a much more precision instrument now.
Well, to make the sound or make the feel or make anything you want in that guitar, you have to be as exact as you can in the process of doing it. You can't, there's no way you can randomly end up with that guitar.
No, I am very, very fussy. I'm picky, and I guess we all are. You have to be. But I wouldn't make an instrument, find flaw in it, and then disassemble it and try to improve on that instrument over and over and over again until that particular guitar were perfect. If I find flaw in an instrument and there's always something, I'll ship it out and try to do better the next time.
Guitars have been made from just about every kind of wood there is, and the experienced builder will select a particular piece of wood for the tone it will give the guitar.
Each of the different kinds of wood has its own quality. But even within a specific kind of wood, every guitar is going to be unique.
Whether it's rosewood, mahogany, maple, or walnut, every guitar begins as a dream.
So the hard part now becomes to take this area or this idea that you want this guitar to sound like and put numbers on it. In other words, process this wood, manufacture it, whittle it down, get rid of all the excess wood and leave the guitar. And it's such a close thing.
There are so many variables that go in to the sound of an instrument, you know, and everything has to kind of work together to produce a particular sound. That it's hard to ask like one little thing here and one little thing there. And I think if a person's doing that, you know, he's headed down the wrong path.
Every luthier has their own idea of how to make that guitar sound the best that we individually know how. We may not always agree,
We often learn that the mass or someone might like something different than what we do, and we go, I understand, and change it. We're not making a guitar for everybody. There's so many sounds of a guitar you could have, and ours is only one of them.
I've been fortunate because my guitars are consistent. I get orders from people that have either seen or played or heard my guitars, so they order a guitar from me expecting it to look and sound and feel a certain way. I rarely have people call with questions about the sound or the feel or the look or anything else. And they're pretty much traditional mainstream players, so it's been very easy for me. I haven't had to be diverse. I make the archtop jazz guitar for the archtop mainstream jazz player, and that's all I've ever done. It's been very, very easy. It's my little niche.
I don't sit down and write down all my time, you know, and I'd probably freak out if I did, you know. But there's so many hours involved, and every one's different. You might spend more time on the one you're working on now than the next one.
A lot of today's guitar builders were a part of the 60s generation, when there was a great rebirth of handcrafts.
What those people realized in the 1970s was that it's a very tough business to learn and a very tough business to succeed at. Most people had very poor business skills and floundered. But what's happened is, as those people have gotten a little older and approached their 40s, they've all matured at once. And they've matured in their business skills, they've matured in their craftsmanship and in their designs. And I think that's probably one of the major factors why there's such an abundance of excellence in this field.
What builders have found is the satisfaction of supporting themselves with a job they love. Some are musicians, some are drawn to the romance of old world craftsmanship and to the freedom and struggle of self-employment.
I like the money myself. I like the lifestyle, I really do. I make my own hours. I work 7 days a week, day and night, and I love every minute of it. But I also like the money. Yeah, you're darn right. After probably 15 years or about that, first 15 years was a struggle. Hot and cold, up and down, doing lots of repairs to fill in the gaps, and I used to teach, and I would do anything. Change strings on a student-grade instrument, whatever it took to make a living. But until eventually the orders became regular, steady, consistent.
I grew up working in the shop, making toys, and my father made furniture, you know, in the 30s, and started then, and it's always kind of been a part of me. And for me, it's almost more of a way of life than it is a business.
I think putting more than 100 instruments out in your lifetime is substantial. It probably is not enough to earn a living on. A very, very good maker that puts out 15 to 20 instruments a year is going to be making a reasonably good living as an individual. And there's not too many of them. There's probably 200 or 300 of those people. And naturally there's a small group of them that really are very, very good and very, very successful.